What's up, Banner Bros? It's Brandon from Box Office Banner. I'm back, of course, with another movie review, as you've heard how many times now. This fucking movie right here, man. Another one that kind of came out of nowhere for me, maybe a couple months ago, whatever it was, and I started seeing trailers for it, and I immediately was just, there's a vibe here. There's something going on. I'm feeling the momentum. I think it's going to be dope. That movie is called The Creator. Same people that made Rogue One. Person that made Rogue One. Was a little nervous about this one because Rogue One, even though I enjoyed that movie as a Star Wars movie, it was the ultimate, I liked it, but I don't really ever need to see it again type of movie. And I was like, what if this sci-fi adventure has them vibes? And I'm here to say it did not. It did not have those vibes. Not for me, at least. This flick right here, man, it about hit expectations. It's really fucking good. Really, I'm even going to say great. But I'll say this much. For me, the creator, John David Washington, this man right here, you got a lot of, shoes to fill with Denzel. But for me personally, I've not really enjoyed this guy much of anything I've seen him in. Now, granted, again, I've said this a million times. He's an actor. Take it or leave it. I don't dislike him. But, maybe there's a little bit of there's a feeling of I want him to hit them levels just because of who his father is. And I'm watching him and it's just kind of yeah, good enough. Not bad. This movie in particular, I was getting a whole lot of those same vibes for the first half of it. But once he really grew into the mix and the character, it seemed like he took off a little more for me. Not, whoa, fantastic, but he was damn solid in this movie, which is ironic because the movie is kind of opposite in terms of my enjoyment of it. Whereas his character got stronger as it went along, the movie got a little weaker as it went along, ironically enough. The very beginning of the movie, or really the whole first half of this movie, I don't want to say sci-fi masterpiece, but, I was this is one of the best movies of the year. I was sold. It was in my top 10. All this shit, it's so hard to make your own original flick. This one, even though it was things we'd seen, there was touches of things that I feel like I hadn't necessarily seen. And even though I could see where it mimicked certain sci-fi movies, it had its own flavor to it. It had its own vibe. There's times where you can kind of take pieces from other sci-fi films and you're just God, it feels very borrowy. It doesn't work. This one, it felt like it took it and put its own fucking stamp on it and really was running with the film. The director was doing a damn good job. Gareth Evans, is that his fucking name? I always get dude from this and the Raids director names mixed up, which was horrible for me because the other guy, the guy that directs the Raids, absolutely love his work. This guy, he's all right. But you could feel the passion project here in the creator. And I was sold from the jump. I could feel every bit of emotion and just creativity and everything dumped into the movie. But somewhere along the way, at the midway point, it's not that it got bad. It just all those things that were feeling really creative and oh my God, we may have seen this before, but it's this world building. The stamps are getting a stamp of approval from me. He's really putting his own spin on it. It started to leak a little bit over into redundancy for me. Not that it would leaked into bad territory, but it was a bit of frustration because all of a sudden, all those feelings of just oh yeah, I may have seen this before. Oh, that's kind of unique. For whatever reason, started to vibe with me in the other direction where it's just it's starting to feel a little familiar. I don't know if maybe the time was running a little too long and it made me sit there and maybe the pacing, I started to look at things a little closer, whereas just maybe right as I was starting to notice something, they pull the wool over my eyes and it switched up. There was just something that switch flipped in the second act where it just kind of ran stale. Not stale, but stale-ish. I was still enjoying the movie, but it just wasn't quite hitting the beats that I was falling in love with in the first half of the movie. Also, let's talk about, the kid in the movie. Adorable. like love her character in the movie. I love the message in this movie. I love the like exposition between who the fuck am I siding with, what's going on in this movie. The kid brings on a whole lot of, you know, those reasons to dive into all those extracurriculars and everything above what have you. But the kid sells it. She's just the I mean, it's the perfect kind of kid in a movie like this. She's not trying too hard. She's not doing too little. She's not cringy. She's just adorable and immediately someone that you want to root for. And I love that about her character. Now, as far as the lead guy, John David Washington, and her chemistry and relationship, there's something there that was missing for me a little bit that I hoped was a bit stronger. And by the time we loop around to the end of the movie, I kind of get that, and what I'm looking for is kind of redeemed. But it feels like there's a trajectory here. Like it starts off, you know, just like any other fucking movie, you know, it's gonna start out like a rough, like, hey, I gotta, you know, do something, take care of you, but I gotta do this. And then it turns into, I might have feelings for you. But there's something else that John David Washington in this movie is leaning towards, that he loves and is looking for along the way, that it fits within the movie, but it kind of takes away from his love with this character. Now, it can work, but maybe it needs just a little more work in terms of writing and things like that to make these things balance out. And I thought they were balancing out quite well, but out of nowhere, it kind of came to a dead stop. But as I say that, that's when the second half of the movie hit. I wasn't feeling the emotional beats with, you know, the lead and the little girl in the movie as much, like in terms of like just building to something, just like God, this relationship. It was building, and then it just kind of plateaued, and then it spiked again, kind of at the end. I wanted to just build to the point where it came to a crescendo of just possibly absolute pain. Whatever happens at the end of the movie, if anything even painful happens, I'm just telling you how I felt going into the movie. This is what I was looking forward to, and I felt like I was on that journey, and then it just kind of plateaued before the very end happened, and you do get rewarding moments with them again. It's not those rewarding moments die off, just like the action doesn't die off. It just starts to, everything feels a little less important to me all of a sudden. And I might have to watch it again to like really put my finger on exactly why that is. And who knows, maybe on a second watch it won't hit me as much. But the movie stopped being as rewarding. Again, I felt some redundancy, and I think that's the biggest word. Like, it didn't feel as fresh. I was just, oh, this is just fresh feeling the entire time. Now all of a sudden it felt like, yeah, it's a good sci-fi movie. And I don't want that. So really, really strong moments in this movie. Little bit of a clunky for me second half of the second to third act, but we're really on par here for the most part going into the final act. And I do think the very, very final act, as I kind of alluded to, was really rewarding and brought my score back up again. Because I was honestly, guys, I was in like the nines, like, you know, low nines, very high eights for most of this movie. I was just really enjoying the world building. I was enjoying all the acting, the characters, all that good shit. And there's little like tidbits that I really enjoyed. Like this movie, you know, it's always like, oh, PG-13. It's like, this is an adult film. Make it rated R. But the thing is, it works very well here because a lot of the violence in the movie is being done to, you know, artificial intelligence. So, like, at least half of the people that are dying, it's not even going to be a bloody death anyways. You know, like somebody gets their face blown off, blood's not going to shoot out. It's just going to, you know, be an empty cavity. There's nothing fucking there, you know, it's just machinery. So it works in this regard, but that's a little nitpick I have. Like, if you're gonna have an adult movie, which is adult driven, obviously, it's just make it R. It should just be R, just out of principle. This is an adult themed movie. Why wouldn't it be? There's a musical cue in this movie that really like gave me chills. Like the music, okay, yeah, fine. The original music, soundtrack, whatever, all good for the most part. There's a certain song by a certain band that played in this movie, and it went with the movie flawlessly. It's one of the, I'm big on music and movies where I had to sit back, like I was kind of singing with it, and I was like, damn, now that right there, like, woo. I was like, good song choice, great touch. really like set the vibes. And I think maybe that's what carried me through the first act. Like that shit hit the feels. It really was just great shit. Story in general, I think, just bare bones type of story approach to it. Like the approach to just talking about the story, not all the intricacies of this said story, but the bare bones approach, just like the basic mission here. It's been done a lot, but it's one of those like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It really works here, and it works within the movie. It still somehow finds a way to feel original. But all the little, here we go, the intricacies of the script, I think the movie does fail a little bit in that regard, and maybe that is where in the second half of the movie it ran out of steam for me. It's like the bare bones of the plot. Okay, I'm always on board for this type of plot, especially, also adding in the stuff with the little kid, and then like, oh, there's something about the world building that feels so refreshing to this, and then, maybe the rest of it caught up to me. But then, like I said, the ending came back around, really just kind of smacked me in the face, was like, damn, that was good shit. So overall, this movie was like a 9 out of 10 to me. I was fucking like in competition for best of the year for sure. Then it started to dip, and I'm like, man, this may be like actually more of like a, it's a really good sci-fi movie. Maybe I was overrating in the beginning. It's like a 7.8 out of 10. Nothing too special. And then the ending for me really stuck the landing. Everything kind of came full circle, and I was like, damn. Yeah, dude, that sent me packing with just like, that feeling of just like, okay, that was special the way they put all that together at the end and made me settle in at an 8.2 out of 10. This is overall a great sci-fi movie. It's not without its problems. I think there may even be some frustration there to it's like, oh, what could have been? But overall, this is damn good sci-fi fare, damn good world building, and does a pretty good job with the relationships. I've seen a lot of people say this movie is just really dry, maybe style over substance. I kind of was worried about that. Like I said, with Rogue One, how that made me feel. I didn't even really get that vibe. There was some good emotional beats in this movie. This one, check it out, man. It did not disappoint at all. Could have been better, but still not disappointed. I'll tell you that much. Check it out. Full show. Love you guys. Peace.